You'll know her as a broadcaster as well as a writer, and there's a kind of continuum between all of the things that she does, and that is intellectual curiosity and drive and energy and intelligence. I've always thought of Sarah, and I've said this before, as a kind of detective or time traveller. One of the things that she does. I just wanted to start first of all by asking you about the relationship between the three Sarahs. The Sarah who was a media and television host and interviewer and so on, the crime writer, and now Sarah Dunant, the historical novelist, or not now, but has been for some time. How do you understand? How did they evolve, and how do they relate to each other?
Actually, I think you've answered it with the word curiosity. Because I think if you work in the media in a complicated political moment, and if you're interested in crime, and if you're interested in history, then you're always doing the same things. Is you're asking what's the story behind the story, and why aren't we being told it, and how can you bring it to life in a manner which makes it both popular and comprehensible, but doesn't lose its complexity. And I think that's what's always made my life in all of those three areas completely interesting. But I think when you come to talk about the Renaissance, I mean, hearing that music made me think about one of the reasons that the Renaissance is completely irresistible to a writer. Because at one level it is without doubt the most beautiful period of history that you'd ever like to live in, right? Wouldn't you like to go back then when Botticelli was painting and Cipriano or Palestrina or whoever were composing, and you were wearing the silks and the satins, and we were relearning classical literature. It was like one of the greatest periods when it was possible to be alive. Right and wrong. Because exactly the energy and creativity that fueled that beauty was also about brutality and corruption. So if you look at, for instance, a Catholic Church which has a Pope commissioning the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo, the Pope is one of the most corrupt figures you could possibly come across. If you look at Botticelli's work, actually he lives in a period when there's been an attack on the state of the Medici, where the Pope has tried to kill all of the family in church by an assassin at Mass. So you find yourself coming across continually two things, which is it's been brought down to us as astonishing and beautiful and lovely and the thing that we most wish we could be. But the historians in you realise that it is actually about brutality and power and all of the things that modernity is about. So for instance, you want to talk about why the Catholic Church is in such trouble when it comes to sexuality, chastity and celibacy. You don't need to look at now, just go back 500 centuries to see that it never worked and it could never work. And if we listen to history, we would never have done it. And that's a classic example, isn't it? Because we now have an up-to-date question. The Catholic Church is in crisis. What should they do about it? They should actually go back and look at history, because all of the answers that you need to know are there. And so for me, there are crimes involved. The crime fiction writer, the historical novelist, and the cultural commentator is going, I can explain that to you. Really, I can explain.